Well, as millions of Americans watched the total solar eclipse across the heartland of the country today, the presumptive presidential nominees were laying out their plans on two key issues: abortion and student loans. Former President Donald Trump said abortion rights should be left to the states, a position that drew pushback from Democrats and Republicans alike. We're going to have more on that later in the show. But first, President Biden announced new proposals for partial or complete student loan forgiveness today. He did it in the battleground state of Wisconsin. The Biden administration has been working on this since the Supreme Court rejected the president's original plan to address the issue last year. During his speech, the president said the plans his White House is working on could help tens of millions of borrowers.
I will never stop to deliver student debt relief on hardworking Americans, and it's only in the interest of America that we do it. And again, it's for the good of our economy that's growing stronger and stronger, and it is. By freeing millions of Americans from this crushing debt of student debt, it means they can finally get on with their lives instead of their lives being put on hold.
Aaron Navarro and Nidia Cavazos join us now. Aaron is following the president in Chicago, and Nidia is following Vice President Harris, who has been talking about the same issue in Philadelphia. Aaron, let's start with you. This announcement was months in the making. The White House has announced some smaller steps here and there, but this is the big one. So walk us through exactly who would benefit from this plan.
Hello from Chicago, Nancy. Good to be with you. This plan, if it is instituted in the way that President Biden proposed today, pending any, of course, challenges in the courts, would do three things. For those who now owe more than they began with because of interest, this plan will look to waive at least $20,000 worth of loans. It will also look to forgive student loans for those who have been making payments for at least 20 years for undergraduate education. Before these individuals would have to apply. Under this plan, it would automatically happen. And then the officials also laid out plans, though a bit vague, to create a loan program or loan forgiveness program for those going through, quote, hardships, but they did not specify what that would exactly look like.
Right, and it's vague because they're actually still working through some of these details. It's going to take a few months to get this rulemaking done. Nidia, this is kind of a piecemeal approach. It's obviously not the approach the White House had been hoping to take. They wanted to wipe out $20,000 in debt for every borrower who was making less than $125,000 a year. But that plan, of course, was struck down by the Supreme Court. So how do we know that this new plan will survive court challenges, and when could it take effect?
Nancy, well, as we know, canceling student debt was the main and central campaign promise of the Biden and Harris campaign, and throughout their administration, they've maintained that they're going to be able to accomplish this and meet the promise that they made to millions and millions of Americans that were hoping to get some sort of student debt relief. But of course, as we saw in 2023, the Supreme Court blocked these efforts. And so, of course, now we have a long way to go before any of this student debt relief is actually seen. We, of course, still have the Department of Education that still has to publish the draft or rules so that we can receive public comments. And if once that goes through, then we would be seeing some sort of debt relief up until the early fall. And most people who would benefit under this plan, the Biden and Harris administration is estimating that it's over 20 million people who would benefit. But of course, they won't necessarily be seeing these benefits and these campaign promises come to fruit up until 2025.
Right. So when they go to the polls in November, it will still be a bit far off. Nidia, out on the campaign trail, student loans is one of those issues that really does seem to resonate. People will tell you, well, my loan isn't going to be forgiven, but I do know someone who does qualify. How much of an impact does the campaign think that this is going to have when, as we've been discussing, most of these loans won't be forgiven until well into 2025?
Right, so Nancy, I've been talking to many voters on the campaign trail. This was early on this year, and even I got to talk to some of the voters and students who have student debt out here in Pennsylvania. And what I get is a sense of disbelief. They don't actually think that this is going to come to fruit because it didn't happen initially. And they think that the Supreme Court or this new plan would actually have some sort of legal challenges. So that's sort of the feeling that we're getting from some voters that had the hope on Biden and Harris administration that they would get their student loans canceled. But now, as far as the importance from the campaign, well, we're seeing it with President Biden out in Wisconsin, and we have Vice President here in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. So that speaks to how important this issue is to the campaign. They recognize the importance. They're still trying to make this promise come to fruit. But we know that it's not only going to be the most important, one of the most important issues out for voters, as we're seeing Harris, whenever she has trips, her recent trips, she's been met with a lot of protesters out here, advocating for issues that matter most to them. We're seeing some dreamers out here who have been saying, the Biden and Harris administration are focused on certain issues, but we as dreamers haven't necessarily seen any sort of solution for us. And of course, we're always met with protesters here who are calling for a ceasefire and who shout "Free Palestine" whenever Vice President arrives. And we know she's inside the school right now, and she's talking on she's focused on student debt, but we have voters out here who, aren't necessarily worried about that. They have other issues on their mind.
Nidia, you make a really interesting point, which is that it's not very often you have the White House sending out both the president and the vice president to different places to talk about the same issue, the way you've got the president talking about student loans in Wisconsin, the vice president in Philadelphia. Aaron, not sure why they tried to counter-program against the eclipse with a lot of people distracted, but nevertheless, you spoke to Congressman Steve Horsford today. He's the chair of the Congressional Black Caucus. What did he have to say about this issue and whether he thinks it's going to break through for voters?
That's right. Congressman Horford is in one of those swing districts in a swing state in Nevada. He was here in Chicago to speak to DNC convention staffers, just to kind of introduce himself, kind of hear about the convention. But I asked him after he spoke to these staffers about the student loan program that Biden talked about. And he was adamant that it wasn't just young voters that could benefit or that would gravitate towards President Biden because of this action, but voters overall. I asked him, though, if there is an issue that the president's campaign has in terms of messaging with young voters and letting them know about his policies. Take a listen to his answer.
I have encouraged the campaign to do, and they're doing it, is to meet people where they are. I'm in a competitive district. I don't take anything for granted. People need to see the record between what we've had under President Biden and Vice President Harris or what we could have under Donald Trump.
And throughout our chat, he kind of foreshadowed how the Biden campaign and Democrats would message in terms of if this act or these actions are stopped by Republican judges. He repeatedly referred to MAGA forces potentially blocking some of these proposals from actually being enacted. So it's kind of showing how the Biden campaign is preparing in case some of these actions don't fully get instituted. Right.
They want credit for at least trying to push this through. Aaron Navarro in beautiful Lake Michigan waterfront, thank you so much. And Nidia Cavazos in Philadelphia, thank you as well.